final. Thank you for joining us for our final real estate webinar. This is our 10th one, and it's our final Zoom meeting that, well, at least the final one that we have planned out of necessity. So we're looking forward to getting back to our in-person events, and we'll be talking more about that as well too, as far as what the future holds for us. So as you could hear, the meeting is being recorded as well too, just to let you know. And and we do like to use, whether it's the virtual networking or these events, as a way for people to continue to make connections and to build your networks. So we ask you, if you haven't already, if you could put your contact information in the chat box, and we will include all of that in our thank you email that we'll be sending out to everybody as well too. And here's the information on the Workforce Training Fund. I think I talked about that. And some information about Middlesex 3 Coalition. We work with transportation, education, workforce development, utilities, trying to improve this area to improve economic development. We won't get into that, but what we will ask is if you could follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter, and that way we can get you information about what's going on in the region in real time as well too, and some of the events and ways that you can connect with our companies and other contacts and stakeholders in the region. And here's some of the information on some of the other events that we have throughout the year. Thank you to our series sponsor, AHP Architects, the BSC Group, and Reamer and Bronstein. You guys are great. You've been sponsoring this whole series from the beginning, and we couldn't do it, wouldn't want to do it without you. So we appreciate your support. And thank you to today's panelists, including Katie Enright from Howard Stein Hudson, Lisa Maroney from the town of Chelmsford, and Mike Augusapian from RW Homes Commercial Real Estate. Thank you guys for joining the conversation. I put this agenda up here really just to let you know that for one, there will be time for questions. So if anyone has questions for the panel, just throw them into the chat, and Demetrius will handle them as well too, or we'll kind of weave them into the conversation. We are going to start off with a short poll in just a few minutes, and also just to let you know, we plan to end this meeting at 1 o'clock as well too, so we'll stay on topic. And Demetrius, I gotta thank you. You've started this. I'm going to stop my share because I want to. Okay. Thank you. You've started this series from the beginning. You had an idea, you threw it out. You didn't think it would be via Zoom. You're the best moderator we could hope for. You've kept the conversations going. All right, I'm keeping the bar high for this meeting here. But I've been having fun, and I think that's what it's really all about. So thank you for being our moderator, for leading the conversation. We're going to continue this. We're going to change it because you always have to change things up to keep it fresh. But thank you for all the work that you've been doing to help us to moderate these conversations. I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to make certain that I get Katie back up here as a panelist, because I know you're probably going to be worried about that. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Demetrius, and thank you for all your work and leading these conversations. You're on mute.
I said, thank you. I said, I'm not worried about Katie because for the most part, she's omnipresent. It's like everybody seems to, every deal or opportunity is like, oh, Katie's part of it. Of course she is. So, so I know she'd be here, and there she is in the center square. So, Stephanie, thank you so much. You know, this has been fun. Yeah, it was an idea. It was very interesting. We probably should have renamed it the COVID seminars, just because, you know, it just thought about it is that every conversation here was in essence about the COVID impact on real estate. And I mean, how could you not? And that also influenced the topics we decided to, you know, to choose. I probably wouldn't have done, you know, restaurants. I probably wouldn't have done, you know, some of these other topics if it wasn't for where that COVID impact might have been. But it's kind of interesting because we've also seen it when we started this last, you know, basically last summer, right? Or last fall, when we started these, you know, we were kind of still in the thick of things, and seeing how things adapted over time was really kind of interesting. So so this would be fun, and this is the last one. So let's have some fun. So for those who don't know me, my name is Demetrius Spinaeus. I'm the co-owner and president of Land and Sea Real Estate based in Andover. I think most of you know who I am at this point. I think I'd like to let me introduce the panelists first, and then we'll play with the poll. So let me just everybody can give a brief introduction. I'll start with she who sits at my right hand, who is Lisa.
Hi, Demetrius. Thank you so much. It's great to see everyone. I just, I've participated with the Middlesex 3 Coalition events and activities as much as I can. It's an important part of the work I do. I work for the town of Chelmsford. I am the Director of Business Development. My role is, I still say it's newly created, but I'm in my third year of a new position here. It takes a bit to get yourself integrated into a new community. And this group is vital to the work that I do. And I feel very supported in the teamwork that happens here. And I see so many familiar faces with people that I've had individual conversations with, working partnerships. And I just really greatly appreciate the continued effort. And it helps me to try to reach some of the goals that Chelmsford has for business retention, business attraction. I'm constantly talking about workforce training funds. I'm always, working with the people here. I know Katie does a lot of work in Chelmsford, and she's just a much valued person for me to continue to support the business community. And I could go on, but my role is partly focused on the Chelmsford Crossroads at Route 129. The goal is to re-image and rebrand a concentrated area in Chelmsford which is primarily office buildings, but we are seeing some transformation of, amazingly, some of these office buildings are coming into high bay manufacturing space, and it's extraordinary. During COVID, the town hall closed for about 2 weeks only. We've been here nonstop, and our projects have continued. We have all, scaled up projects of Thermo Fisher down to smaller sizes, individual small business work. It's been very, very busy, and I'm happy to be a part of the final webinar Zoom series for the Middlesex 3. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we'll hear from the great Mike Ogasapian, who though we haven't done it before, we've decided we are going to do a deal together by the end of the year. So
in Chelmsford.
In Chelmsford,
yeah,
of course, with Katie engineering it. So let's
keeping with the theme of everyone working together in the Middlesex 3 Coalition. Hi guys, thank you for having me today. My name is Mike Ogasapian. For those who don't know me, I'm with R.W. Holmes Commercial Real Estate. We've been serving the greater Boston commercial real estate market for office, industrial, and manufacturing real estate for over 45 years. I have not personally been working in commercial real estate for over 45 years, but I've only been in commercial real estate for 9. But we focus on different markets in and around Boston. And personally, I work mostly in the North Market along Route 3, going up to Woburn. So a lot of my time is spent here working with owners and users of commercial real estate. So happy to be here, and a good portion of my job is time spent is tracking the market. So hope to have a few things to say about what's going on and offer some thoughts.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. And then, of course, as I said, the omnipresent Katie Enright. So.
Thank you all very much. I'm Katie Enright. I am a professional engineer with Howard Stein Hudson. I'm also on the board of Middlesex 3. And my career has basically been centered in Chelmsford since I graduated UMass Lowell in 1998. So I spent a lot of time in Chelmsford. I work hand in hand with Lisa and the town of Chelmsford to look at new projects and try to bring new economic initiatives to essentially all the communities along the Route 3 corridor. So I'm here today. I'm very happy to be here amongst you all doing this final Zoom and talking about the future of Middlesex 3.
See, now you just said something else I didn't know about you. So you graduated ULowell in 1998. Yep. I was on the faculty then. How's that? Very cool.
Very good.
Yeah, neat, huh? I didn't know that. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to have Stephanie, if you would like, just kind of throw the polls out, and we can kind of use that maybe as our launching off point. Oh, can't vote.
Stephanie, we can't hear you.
Let me help if I unmute. Sorry about that. So yeah, we'll ask everyone if, I think we can start the polling right now.
I don't
But-
think we can vote on the host and panelists can't vote. So
Okay, yeah, Davey, I think maybe we can change it so that the panelists can vote, but you guys will be able to talk that through as well too. But yeah, we'd love to hear from everybody as far as what you think the region's current strengths are. What is the one thing the region could be doing better to attract businesses to the region? And thinking about the region in 20 years, yes, what's the one major project or initiative that you would like to see realized? And if it's not up there, throw it in the chat as well too. So the results are coming in. And okay, I don't know if we need 2 minutes for this, but we'll get a couple more people to respond. But it seems as though the clear winner in terms of the region's current strengths would be highway, access, and transportation.
Mhm.
That I find interesting, because I would have said workforce personally. And then in terms of what's the one thing the region could do better, it's pretty split between housing. I'm sorry, between transportation and more housing. We do talk about housing a lot, don't we?
So housing was both a strength and a concern. Or transportation, I should say.
Right. And the one thing that we want to be able to do is a power grid from renewable or clean energy, but that as well as expansion of transportation. We do like to talk about transportation. So thank you everybody who's answered the poll, and I'm going to end that. Oh, I'm sorry. Could you not see those results? Did I have to share those? Well, I'm still learning. But all right. And can you all see that?
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting.
Good here.
All right, cool.
All right.
All right. No, I think that's very interesting. Actually, I agree about the location access to transportation. You know, I mean, yeah, well, the people have spoken, so to speak. So
Good jumping off point.
it's a good jumping off point. So, you know, though, I mean, since we are kind of coming out of this COVID thing, I kind of want to, and this probably does lead to the current or lead on the conversation about the current strengths. You know, where are we right now? And I'm just kind of want to throw that out. I don't want to say what happened, because almost on every one of these webinars I've been saying, okay, so how did it affect this industry? How did it affect this industry? Well, you know, we know how it's affected now all the industries over the last 10 months. So really, guys, I'm going to kind of throw this out to the three of you, and just feel free. We're having a coffee chat here, so just feel free to chime in at any time. And just like, where are we right now in our region now, getting out of COVID, and what are you seeing happening? So I'm going to start with Mike, just because it looks like he's ready to jump in.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that really what's happened with COVID is that it has sped up a lot of things that were happening in the market beforehand. So what was happening mostly in the office real estate side was we saw a need for less space for tech companies that were using traditional office. So that started to slow down a little bit. They started to get smaller. Traditionally, suburban Boston has had an overbuilt supply of office. I think we can look up and down Route 3, and you can see some vacancy there. Some buildings that are underutilized. And big trend of what's happening right now is that many of these buildings are turning into an adaptive reuse for biotech, for life sciences space. And I would expect that trend to continue. I think that, for example, IBM, we just watched them downsize from about 500,000 square feet in Westford into about, I want to say 150,000 over at Crosspoint in Lowell. So that's a trend I think we're going to continue to see. That I think what COVID did was really just kind of speed that up a little bit and make people say, you know what, we've got a high demand for something that can pull some of these buildings out of their current situation in the cycle where they're not leasing, not being used, and now can bring them into something else that can be used and has a very high value.
And that also leads to the importance and the strength of our workforce in this area as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why it's great to hear some of the initiatives that the M3 is focused on, and I think that some of the higher education institutions that are in this area, from the M2D2 with UMass Lowell, from Middlesex Community College, from Northeastern's innovation building in Burlington. I think those things are going to help propel this area and actually give Route 3 a pretty bright future, not just in Burlington, but also going north.
Awesome, awesome. I'm going to shift it over to Katie. I'm going to let you he's going to give you the lateral pass, and I want you to run with that.
Yeah, so our focus has been substantially since COVID started, really being on housing and suburban housing and suburban housing everywhere, and really just trying to find properties that were able to do, different types of housing for different types of affordability for different age groups throughout. The shift has really switched kind of from any kind of commercial industrial base to pretty much all housing all the time. And the stuff that we're seeing as far as the commercial spaces, we're seeing a lot more of that convenience commercial. So less about having stock and somebody going in and buying something, but instead starting to look a little bit more at restaurants, not necessarily national chains, but local homegrown restaurants, looking at people who specifically want to invest in their communities and really start to look at other types of uses for these standard office spaces. So we just attempted recently to put a doggy daycare in an old industrial space, because as we all know, I'm a cat person, but every single person I know got a dog during COVID. And at some point they're probably going to go back to work and need a place to put the dog during the day. But really kind of thinking about those services that people can provide and less about the space to kind of hold stock. And then also, of course, warehousing and distribution, and finding places for companies like Amazon to put lots of things at the last mile so that people can order things and get them really quickly. So, but housing has been incredibly in demand since COVID started.
Awesome. And thank you. And Lisa, where do you see these, what we're talking about in regards to like Chelmsford specifically?
Well, following on what Katie was saying, housing has been such a topic of conversation in Chelmsford. We have received so much housing on all different areas, high-end condos, 2-bedroom, market rate, affordable housing, any available areas in Chelmsford that can accommodate a housing project. And so, as it's not a secret that we are having sewer capacity issues, which is really complicating, the immediate need and current plans, but also the future outlook. And as Mike had said, the value of Route 3, the future value. I know in Chelmsford, we have one particular property being looked at on Billrica Road for the land value, to take down the building and the interest of reusing that land with that highway access that we saw in the pole and the importance of that, where it's immediate on-off, a dedicated off-ramp into the crossroads. So I think there's an opportunity for a lot of change to happen. I know that there's a lot of interest to relook at space in the crossroads with a different perspective, and where could housing fit, where could manufacturing fit. We see that happening with Triton putting in high bay space in a 3-story office building, and Thermo Fisher, who cored out an office building and then added on a single-story modernized office space. So, I feel that this next year coming up, there's so much in flux, there's so much happening, trying to be adaptable to those needs. You can see that Chelmsford has put in zoning measures to accommodate the market demand, and we have more zoning measures coming forward in town meeting this week for voting. We're trying to address the needs of ghost kitchens, e-commerce, distribution, warehousing. We had a very large property change ownership on River Neck Road, which is part of the Crossroads. 199 River Neck is a 9-acre parcel, about 200,000 square foot existing space in 2 buildings that got purchased. And they also bought the land pad next door for 5 acres, and waiting to see what that development will be. It can accommodate zoning for housing, for warehousing, for life science, for office. I think it's a time of opportunity to kind of emerge from this pandemic to really engage in some deals that are either long overdue or some very creative planning and how to accommodate for the next 20 years. About 2 years ago when I was hired, they created the Crossroads, which is 495 and Route 3 along 129. So with highway access, I can't say it enough. I'm here to promote that opportunity in the Crossroads, but I do know, as Mike said, there's a lot of a lot of empty space in buildings, office buildings up along the way, which we're just trying to make it the most business friendly we can, and just doing that through a lot of networking and just advocacy and awareness of what we're trying to do to bring business here.
Awesome. Great, thank you. So now, with that being said, it seems like there's there's been some energy, and you're just kind of we're focusing right now. We're just talking about housing, and then some of the expansion of offices, particularly life sciences and tech companies. So what do you all see as kind of, now that the masks are off, right? Now that we're kind of out of this, what are really the challenges moving forward? It's like we say, okay, we have all this potential opportunity. And I mean, a lot of it is potential. It's potential energy that's kind of coming into the region. So, but what are the challenges? What are we seeing as our potential pitfalls as we move forward? And part of that could be from the second question from the poll. I mean, what are we doing better to attract businesses to the region? I mean, what are our potential gray areas we have to go looking forward? Anybody can just jump in on that.
I think right now, one of the biggest concerns, especially now, talking that so much real estate has to be repurposed right now, is cost of construction that continues to climb by about, I think it's about 12% monthly is what we've been seeing in 2021. So in 2021, so it's that I think is a major concern. I think and Lisa can speak to this as well, seeing what's taken some time for things to develop on Billerica Road, is that some of the ownership entities that held the real estate there were hesitant to spend the money, and still to some degree are, to simply either knock down a building or to completely put out the capital to repurpose something to that degree that's required up there. That I think is what I see as one of the biggest challenges.
I have to agree with that. Absolutely. I know that we've had a couple of very large buildings change ownership in the last 3 years, and the infusion and energy of new ownership, new investment, you can see the difference in what happens between the buildings that have been empty and just, the charming jewel of the Crossroads is a building full of amenities. But I think some of the future challenges is that companies aren't sure what they need right now for existing space, and making a commitment for 5 years, 15-year, lease agreements. It's pretty challenging to what's involved with that hybrid opportunity. The shortfall of finding those skilled workers that want to come to this area. All businesses that I'm talking to are having trouble recruiting. You see signing bonuses trying to happen more. And so, what does that mean for square footage requirements? What are people going to be comfortable with long after COVID? Will there be common areas? Will there be common kitchens? Are they still going to be ping pong tables taking up space? What does this look like? I think that's part of the transition year is what I'm calling it. The 2021, a bit of a transition year. Haven't really figured that out yet. And for my role, just staying involved in a municipality to figure out how we can serve and support and influence those decisions.
Jiggy? What do you think?
Yeah, and I agree with Lisa. I mean, I'm seeing even within our own business, Howard Stein Hudson, we have, the majority of our employees are right on Beacon Street in Boston, with an outpost here in Chelmsford and an outpost in Worcester. And we're certainly seeing more interest in having employees look and work out of the Chelmsford and Worcester offices rather than traveling into Boston. We've done a lot of work with Lisa as our offices in the 129 overlay district in Chelmsford. We've done a lot of work in the district to try to promote housing and try to promote retail and other opportunities. But I think office space is being reimagined as far as what people are going to need for space, whether they're going to start hoteling desks, and that people are only going to be required to come into the office for small periods of time. And what that space looks like. And I think what I try to do, or what I'm trying to do, is really within the regulations and kind of working with people like the town of Chelmsford, like their planning department, is to try to think outside the box as to how to accomplish something that might be a little bit more creative, or that might not be the standard user that you would see in a typical office building, like what Lisa was saying that Triton did to just a regular, run-of-the-mill 1980s, I think, 3-story office building is what it's going to take. It's going to take kind of looking at the regulations and working with towns and cities to figure out how to accomplish these redevelopments and what they're going to look like. And they won't ever be, the standard office space buildings again. So.
True.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think those things also kind of lead to a kind of follow-up question, because it seems that there's this emphasis, as we were talking about, on housing, and that keeps kind of coming up in general in all these conversations, and traffic. So I want to just kind of talk about those two topics just for a second. So I'm going to kind of throw that out there. I mean, what are our housing and traffic challenges moving forward? Let's get a little specific on this to our region. You guys, anybody can jump in.
If you guys want to. I mean, with housing, what we've seen is like in Chelmsford, we've gotten a lot of pushback in trying to provide housing from different communities. I think that there's a lot of education that needs to happen regarding housing and how they affect a community as a whole, whether it be with an over 55 community or with a community that is going to have an influx of children, how that affects the economics of something like the Route 129 overlay district and the ability of people to work and live in a community without having to travel. I mean, I think like office space, I think it's going to take a while for us to kind of sort out what traffic looks like after the pandemic. I know that our company and a lot of companies are looking at alternative hours, looking at alternative work schedules, looking at work from home. I'm not sure we're going to see traffic to the levels that we saw pre-pandemic because of that. And I think it's going to take some time, as people start to figure out what their return to work policies is as to what traffic would be. I feel like already on the road today, you're starting to see traffic or heavier traffic on Route 30 starting as early as 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And does that mean, people are just going in for a few hours for a meeting, or they're getting home before their children get off the bus because there's no after school programs? There's a lot of different things that I think we're going to see, like with office space, with traffic too, and it's going to take some time for us to see the transportation impacts.
And as a follow-up to that, do you guys, and I'm actually going to throw this, kind of pass it over to Mike on this one. I mean, do you think those two issues, housing and traffic, are affecting businesses in their decisions to move here?
It's a good question. I think that, pre-COVID, what seemed to be the trend was that originally companies would be located where the folks in the C-suite were living. Your CEO lived in a certain town, and then your company might move there, and there was a good chance it would happen. We watched that sort of C-suite centric model kind of move away, where, okay, we need to be where the talent is, and you had a major demand for everyone to be downtown and to live downtown. Everybody wanted to be in the urban area, the Cambridge, the Seaport, what have you. And now you've seen some folks, want to migrate out and venture out into living in the suburbs. For example, I was reading some vacancy rates for multifamily over 25 units, and vacancy rates now in the suburbs are 3 points lower than they were pre-COVID. So we're seeing a demand for people that want to live out in this area. And I think that could have an effect on the office market. It still kind of remains to be seen, but and I think that will certainly have an effect on traffic, as opposed to folks maybe doing a reverse commute. Maybe if your company was located out in the suburbs, you wanted to live downtown, either hop on the Pike or Route 93, get out of town, and then you're at where you work, and you're back home and go in the opposite way of the traffic. So as to what effect that's going to have, I think it could prove positive for this area.
Lisa, want to jump in on this?
Well, it's obvious to kind of how to connect traffic and housing. Katie was saying the change of hours, the childcare, these are all things that these are the weighing factors to decide what they do. I know that Chelmsford has attracted a few businesses from area towns during the pandemic. We've had 10, 15 openings of various sizes, a couple in the crossroads as well. I think that there's still a lot of change. I know that Middlesex 3 works very hard at the transportation shuttle. We've been trying to make those connections with the larger companies and using it as a business attraction amenity. It's really tough to try to mitigate that and see what that means and how it all weighs in. But I do think that the creative solutions, changing schedules, shifting rotations. I have a family member that drives more than an hour to get to work, and I know that they're trying to shift it where they're working on Saturday and Sunday over the weekend, and then their days off are during the week. Anything to try to keep that workforce, stable and keeping those strong people on your staff, and that's really what makes the credible success of a business. So it's a very high priority to create not necessarily an easy convenience for people to, but to make it something that it's a mutual working issue between the employer and employee. I do think that employers gained a lot of respect for their staff to work remotely and stay very productive. And I think they learned a lot. They might have anticipated that people wouldn't actually be working remotely, but a lot of people in these different layers of skill sets are driven, to be ambitious people, and they want to work hard and do well at their jobs. And the companies kind of got a little bit of a wake-up call that this really is a viable option to give some mature freedoms to their workers so that they can keep that loyalty going and retain that staff and use it as a way to attract more accomplished workers that, appreciate the gesture.
Awesome. That's cool. All right. So I'm just going to throw out a question for all of you. Now start having some fun here. So I want each of you to tell me what are you seeing currently, what are you seeing is the most exciting development in the region? When you're just like, wow, that's so cool, that's happening here. That, maybe people on this call don't know about. Someone that they might, but somebody will be like, wow, I didn't know that was happening in, such and such location. So what's really causing you some excitement? Would like to jump in first.
Well, I'll jump in. I find it extremely unique that the town, the municipality, is taking steps to create a re-imaging and branding and marketing for the crossroads at 129. And we did that through grant money. We had site readiness done through mass development. That led us to the next step. We have hired economic development strategists because government and the municipality can't always build that bridge between public and private and do those initiatives where you work closely together to create change. And so we've been working on that, and we have an action plan, a very involved action plan developed that I'm working through to create a business association and signage and much more in the crossroads. And I feel like some of this effort is leading to we've got an elevated life science rating here. We have a platinum status community, the highest achievable you can get. And during the pandemic, we've got Thermo Fisher fitting out space, 100,000 square foot life science company, Triton Systems, extraordinary company. They're taking more space than they expected to in their renovation. So we keep pushing in that direction, partly because our office buildings seem to be more suitable to renovate for life science, and just really engaging close connections with those property owners to figure out how else we can do some creative business development.
Cool. Mike, what are you seeing? What's exciting you?
So, what I really find fascinating, it happened, it was earlier this year, but I think the Home Depot project that Equity Industrial Partners is doing, it's Tewksbury, Lowell, a little bit of Lowell, and also Billerica that property sits on, that is now a ground up project for a state-of-the-art facility for 700,000 square feet of space for Home Depot to have distribution in. So for me, I remember for so long that property sat vacant, just very underutilized, but very interesting to a lot of developers that eventually EIP scooped up and was able to complete or to lock down a tenant to start this project. So I think that to me is something that's happening in the market that I see is very fascinating and interesting.
Cool. Katie, what's exciting? What one thing is really kind of awesome happening?
I mean, it's not really one thing, but I like, and it's funny, nobody's asked me that question in a really long time, so I was just thinking about it when we're talking, but I'm loving a lot of these redevelopment projects that are happening in and around the community. Some I'm working on, some I'm not working on, but old tired buildings that, we see every day in our everyday lives that are being reinvigorated and repurposed. And, we're working on a great project in Chelmsford Center for the Oddfellows building that's empty for 20 years. And there's a local restaurateur that owns Fishbones that's looking at investing a significant amount of money in fixing this building and making it into a new beautiful restaurant. We have another project down on 3A in North Chelmsford that we're another vacant building that sat as an eyesore for as long as I can remember. I guess the last time it was used is the 80s, is being reinvigorated as a liquor store. Things like the UMass West Campus in North Chelmsford that Trammell Crow Residential is looking at, creating a multifamily development. The one that Lisa previously mentioned on River Neck Road, office buildings being purchased by the Davis companies as part of a redevelopment that we've yet to see. Kind of really looking at properties that are either dilapidated or unused or underutilized, and We're working on another one at the Kent Cottage in Burlington just to get us out of Chelmsford. Again, reinvigorating a beautiful, beautiful old building and bringing it back to life with some additional housing. So those types of projects really excite me when we can find a piece of land that that we drive by every day that we can really kind of bring back to life. So.
Cool. So I was I promised this that when we had our prep meeting, and I forgot, is that I was going to go get a magic 8-ball, and we were gonna ask it a question, we were gonna shake it, about what the future of the region was gonna be, but no, I forgot. So I forgot to get one. I don't know if Stephanie has a magic 8-ball with her, but let's just, and kind of as a final big question for me, let's just kind of talk about the future. I mean, what do you really see? I'm thinking of this question. I don't know if you remember the Donald Fagen solo album, Nightfly, right? And his song IGY. I keep going through my head is what a beautiful world this could be, right? It's kind of going through my head and saying how exciting this is. So, where do you guys, you see, I'm really jazzed on this topic, right? So where do we see us? The question is this: what are you thinking of the region in 20 years? Where are we at? What does this region look like? It doesn't have to be 20 years, but what do we see?
We see lots of amenities and restaurants on Route 129. It's the quandary I have of businesses. They look here, they like it here. There's not enough amenities, and the amenities won't locate because there's not enough, workforce, daily population. And so my hope and dream, if I'm still around in 20 years, would just to see that vibrancy, the full occupancy of Route 129 and the way it was built years ago when we had those major employers, Apollo Computers and Kronos was here, and Mercury Computer, and all that activity, where we had the existing empty space and the proximity to the access of the highway. We're working on housing. Everything takes time, and it's getting very, very expensive. So as a municipality perspective, we're trying to do our part to stay involved and help close those gaps of what it takes for these deals to happen. So that would be my goal, to be able to see that through, where there, it doesn't have to be like, Wall Street down there, but to not have all of the empty space up front, because the rest of the park has extraordinary businesses and a lot of vibrancy happening, but all the square footage of significance is highly visible. So that would be my hope and dream here.
Great.
And I think you're gonna see that happen, Lisa. I do. I think that one of the trends that we're seeing right now, obviously we mentioned biotech, but we are going to see, I think, some more buildings, particularly in Burlington, in the very near future, you're going to see convert to biotech. Obviously, Millipore coming over from Billerica was a major move. Billerica lost them, but they were able to backfill with Quanterix, which was a company that came out of Lexington. And so, a company like that, it's like, geez, we need to expand. We've got a lot of projects happening in Waltham and Lexington for new biotech space, but the sticker price there is going to be probably twice what it would be if you were to look north along Route 3. So I think that there's reason to be hopeful for that. Like I said, those companies can put the dollars into adaptive reuse of their space. You're going to see that. I think that's something that we don't know what Davis has planned yet for River Neck, but I would put a fair amount of money that down that they're going to go biotech. We're seeing it happen in Bedford, where Redgate just purchased the old Oracle campus off of Jumbo. Jumbo had plans to do spec biotech there and then market it. Redgate very well could have a tenant in tow there, a user. I'm also hearing that 3 Vandegraff in Burlington is another former office building that Ingenuity Properties has the ability to convert to life sciences. And I understand they have a few interested groups in a good portion of that building that has, over, hundreds of thousands of square feet vacant. So I think we're going to continue to see that. I think that that's going to bode well for the area going forward. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some capital, but assuming that the economy is able to hold it together, I think we'll continue to see that.
Awesome. And then our final comment from our futurist, Katie Enright. What do you say? I figure you have your finger on the pulse of pretty much everything that's happening in the region. So,
Oh my gosh.
so if anybody's going to predict it and
So
it's going to be you.
I have less of kind of specific things to point to, but I feel like zoning is kind of being reimagined, and that lines between zones are being blurred. And I think a lot of it has to do with, we don't have to stick, biotech in this corner and a purely manufacturing facility in this corner, because the environmental regulations, I think, and just the sustainability and the green building that companies are building into their models now, I think we can kind of all get along and be in the same area, and we don't have to kind of have these little corners of the world that we're sort of stuck in because we fit into a certain category. I think that people do want to live where they work, and they do want convenience, to be convenient and not have to jump on the highway to go places. So I feel like communities have already started with things like overlays, like here in Chelmsford have started to accept that, we don't have to be, the lines don't have to be so defined, and areas within your community don't have to be so stringent, and that uses can mix comfortably if there's the right rules and regulations in place.
Yeah.
That's kind of where
folks that work in biotech like to live there where they work and need places to go and eat and drink. So yeah, that's definitely
awesome. Great answers. I'm going to bring Stephanie Cronin back on, who I believe that her desire for the future is a monorail down Route 3, if I remember correctly.
And thank you for this discussion. This has been a great discussion. But what I'd like to do, if possible, and I want to ask Lisa, Katie, and Mike to help me with this, is I want to flip the tables a little bit. And Demetrius has been leading these conversations for quite a number of weeks now. But I think it's time for us to be asking him some questions as well too. It's always easy to ask the questions. It's a little harder to answer them. So Demetrius, I think it's fitting for you to kind of have some of the last words for these conversations as well too. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what projects do you see in the region that you find exciting as well.
I think, okay, cool. All right. So Stephanie, I think I'm kind of the eternal optimist about things. And so I truly believe in the power of development, the power of ingenuity, the power of capital, and the power of creative thinking when it comes to necessity, being the mother of invention, so to speak. And so we can kind of come up with ideas, and needs do find a way to be filled. So, in the grand scale, I kind of agree with everything. I think our region is ripe for life sciences and biotech. I think it's ripe as a driving force to bring in other amenities into these regions. But they have to work hand in hand. You can't just kind of say, well, I want a biotech here and the restaurants will come. Well, will they, right? Or, trying to get the restaurants to get there do they really have enough of a clientele? That kind of ends up being, I think, the overall challenge is, which comes first. So I think how developers and municipalities have to really work together, and capital sources have to work together, and states, and federal, and to say, okay, we want to do this here. You bring the biotech, you bring the restaurants, you bring the housing. Let's collaborate and get it done. And I think that's the future of this region. I can see a whole series of biotech and life science campuses right up Route 3, all the way to the New Hampshire border. And I really truly believe that. And a monorail, on a monorail. So right now.
High-speed monorail.
High-speed monorail.
And I'll ask Mike, Katie, and Lisa if they want to kind of jump in with some questions of their own as well too. But while you're thinking of that, one thing I would like to do, and we talk about it every time, is when we look at what we want, what we want in the future, that there are a number of steps you have to get to. And part of it is also this collaboration of working with municipalities. And we have a number of municipalities, not only Lisa, but other communities on the phone too. And Katie and Mike, maybe that's, and Demetrius, a question for you is what can the municipalities do to help us get there?
I mean, I'll speak to that. I mean, it's really just, I mean, I like to communicate, is reach out to, you know, have somebody who's willing to listen and have somebody who's willing to think outside the box and outside of the regulations within the community, and really just help you navigate how to get something accomplished. Not only on behalf of the community, but on behalf of a client or applicant that you're bringing to the table with a piece of property, and really just have that ability to communicate and be willing to, you know, change regulations or look at how to change regulations to accomplish these economic development initiatives, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think, you know, I know I've sat in some planning board meetings with Frank DiPietro here. Just, I think might still be on the call, but in the audience, but here in Burlington. And you know, one of the things that they do really well here is that the town knows what it wants. So if you have a piece of property and you're not sure what to do with it, and you're able to approach the folks in town and say, hey, you know, what do you guys want to see here? And try to work that way backwards to try to bring that to life. You know, that really saves you a lot of time and dollars if you're a developer or a broker, or, you know, somebody who's just trying to get something utilized. So that to me, I think, is something that you know, municipalities are getting it. Obviously, they're hiring the folks on the economic development side, such as Lisa. I know, you know, Burlington's got Melissa. And I think I know Rob was with the town of Billerica. I don't know if anyone's taken his place yet, but to have somebody there that does that's kind of helping as a liaison really does go a long way.
I just want to throw in is that someone could take Rob's job, but they could never replace him.
Yep, that's a good point.
Well, and I'll throw out that Rob may have gone on to a different job, but he's still part of Middlesex 3 as well too. But that is just a plug for the coalition. That is part of our role too. Is if you want to be connecting with some of the municipalities, please let us know. But part of it is also we'll have more of these virtual or in-person events so that we can create these relationships, so that it's going to be easier for you to do the deal in the end as well too. But with that, Demetrius, any other last words that you want to put out there? Or other additional questions that you have for our panel?
No, I don't know. It's more so, does anybody have just a final quick thought they would like to share with everybody?
Lisa, I've never heard you not.
I feel like I've done too much talking. I feel like I didn't want to overshadow, but I want a couple comments is that in the world of business development, it's really, you know, we all have the same tools, the same resources. And when we talk about municipality, we are acting on behalf of the constituents, and it's not that we don't want to do things differently. Sometimes we can't, and sometimes it's very frustrating on our side, or it takes time. But, you know, business development is different between municipalities. I can't do what Burlington does, and, you know, things like that. So we're all trying to work together in the same region, and I'm trying to create Chelmsford's business welcoming in the best way that I can. But as I said in the beginning, I really can't do it alone. I really need to enable or use the powers here of the partnerships that create the work that I can do on behalf of Chelmsford business attraction or business retention.
Cool, cool. Anyone else?
Yeah, no, I think it's great that we have an organization such, like the M3, to help propel those initiatives, and as Lisa said, to bring more people into the conversation, because that really is what it takes. I've been doing this for a few years now, and it's funny, a lot of these things do take a long time to come to fruition, and you do face setbacks, you face hurdles in trying to get an initiative accomplished, but the more folks that are educated on the subject and know in their field that you're able to bring into the discussion, really helps to streamline things and get them done.
Katie, anything?
Yep. I just wanted to thank you again for inviting me to the panel today, and I look forward to seeing everybody hopefully at an in-person event sometime in the future.
Well, wonderful. That's a good segue for me to thank our panel as well. Mike, Katie, Lisa, thank you all for participating in today's discussion. Demetrius, thank you for moderating throughout. We are going to continue with this in some form or another, but we're going to change things up. If anyone's interested in participating or have ideas, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear your ideas as well too. To take off what Lisa was saying, there are a lot of resources in this region, and this region works very well together. So if you're just looking to attract companies, or you've got questions, reach out to us, and we'll collaborate and let you know of the resources that are available as well too. Thank you to our sponsors, AHP Architect, the BSC Group, and Rayburn Bronstein for supporting this programming. We do greatly appreciate it. But we'll be turning to in-person events starting July 15th. We've got a small open house with Peter Milano with Mass Office of Business Development and Judy Burke at Middlesex Community College. So come on, grab a cup of coffee and just connect, and we'll send out information on that. And please follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn so you can get up to date with the events that we have going on as well too. So with that, I'm going to again thank you all for participating. It's beautiful outside. Get outside, enjoy the weather, and I look forward to seeing everybody in person soon.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.